In today's episode, we sit down with Bobby Martini, co-author of the incredible book, Citizen Somerville. Bobby is a lifelong Somerville resident. He talks about growing up on the violent streets and his intimate relationship with the notorious Winter Hill Gang. And the first time when your dad got out of prison, you remember the first time you saw him?
Oh, yeah, he put a shotgun in my throat.
And so we bring you Dirty Old Boston.
I'm very excited to be here today with Bobby Martini. He wrote a book called Citizen Somerville. I blew through that book in 2 days. It talked a lot about people that I've heard about my whole life, people that I knew, family, friends, and I think it was a very honest, very heartfelt and genuine portrayal. And I can tell you he put so much work into it, and I appreciate you coming in. I appreciate you writing the book, so I'm excited to talk to you today. Very excited.
Well, nice seeing you, but I co-wrote it with Elaine Karatzis. She's a major Hollywood producer down in Miami. And she's a brilliant mind, and she took it and finessed it, and I had a lot of help from a lot of people from Somerville. You know, I did like 30 interviews with people, but the book, I got something to be remembered by, you know?
No, you should be very proud of it, honestly.
All right.
I really was blown away with it. It was great.
Thank you.
Okay, can you explain a little bit about what Winter Hill was?
The Winter Hill Gang was started in 1961, and they ran the book. They ran loan sharking, and they were a neighborhood protection agency, really.
And who ran Winter Hill? Who were the guys in charge?
So Buddy McLean was one of the founders of the Winter Hill Gang until he got killed in 1965. Howie Winter was his partner, along with Joe McDonald, until Howie went away in 1978. Sal Spaligna was a professional gambler and a good guy, and he worked with Winter Hill because he grew up with Howie and Joe and them and Buddy. So they were all just friends. Like I said, there's no Winter Hill Gang till 61. And he's probably one of the most respected men.
Your dad owned Marshall Motors.
Marshall Motors was the garage where, it was the office for Howie, and it was in my father's name.
So on paper, he owned Marshall Motors.
On paper, yes. They put it on 60 Minutes saying that's where Whitey was and all this other stuff. But Whitey didn't get there till 1972.
Can you explain a little bit about Whitey Bulger and his connection to Winter Hill? It's always portrayed in the media that he ran Winter Hill or he was Winter Hill. But you're saying that that's not really true.
He wasn't the Hill.
That's what I understood from this book that I didn't get before.
He was just salty.
Because people tied him to Marshall Motors, but that was only because Howie
He hung there from 72 to 77 when Howie went away.
Right.
As soon as Howie went away, Sal called him up and says, "Get the fuck out of there."
Yeah.
And he got out, and that's why he ended up in Boston.
In 1979, federal prosecutors indicted 21 men, including Howie Winter, who would serve 6 years in prison. Unknown at the time, Whitey Bulger was behind these arrests, cooperating with federal investigators in an attempt to consolidate his power in Boston. And you think that Whitey was the reason that Howie went away?
Yeah, Whitey. Whitey was just a weasel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Raped boys, he raped girls, killed anybody that was in his way. Just a weasel.
On May 1st, 1980, Bobby's father was shot inside his bar, the Pointer Post, on Beacon Street in Somerville, after a dispute with Jimmy Hackett, the leader of a crew known as the 10 Hills Gang, responsible for numerous bank robberies and famously robbing the Hilltop Steakhouse.
We were just having a good time. We were all drinking all night, and I walk out of the back room with a pool table. I see him argue with my father. I go, "Hey, what are you arguing for?" I should have opened my mouth. So I broke his jaw.
After the fight, Hackett drove to 10 Hills Cafe, where he picked up a handgun and a sawed-off double-barreled shotgun that he'd hidden in the men's restroom, before heading back to the Pointer Post for revenge.
Hour later, my father's outside with a knife. Brian's there. He's got a gun. I got nothing. I'm going, "Dad, get inside, will you?" And Brian's going, "Bobby, will you get inside, please, please?" We get inside. 5 minutes later, the door knocks, and this kid opens the door, the stupid bastard. And Hackett comes in and goes to shoot, come in to kill me. And my
Did
father,
he have a handgun or a...
handgun.
Okay.
And my father jammed the gun, pushed him against the wall, and the bullet went through my father's hand into his belly. I see my father run by. He's a big guy, and he jumps over a fence. Gary O'Brien was behind the bar, and Hackett's trying to shoot him, and Gary's throwing glasses at him. And I'm just like, what's going on? And outside the door is this kid, Sully, with a shotgun. And the only thing to save...
He was there with Hackett.
Yeah, the only thing that saved our lives, the door closed, and it was this thick. I opened the door, Hackett scurries out. The shotgun's at my head like this, and I close the door, both barrels, right at my face. The door stopped. After my father gets shot, we find him around the corner. Went to the hospital, Cambridge City, and then I seen him on the table. I figured he was going to die. I'm trying to get in there, and the big guard wouldn't let me in, and finally, I just broke down. I started crying. I cried in the guy's shoulder. That's not like me, usually, but sometimes you get a breaking point in life.
Your dad, that was...
Yeah, and I thought he was going, and...
Local news reported that when the police interviewed Bobby's father about who had shot him, his reply was, "I was just out for a late-night jog. I don't know who it was."
They end up going down to Saudi Arabia. The feds have followed them. They robbed the bank. 8 years later, Hackett come back. He got his eye stabbed out.
Jimmy Hackett would eventually end up in a Kuwaiti prison after a jewelry heist gone wrong.
Was your dad like a friendly, outgoing kind of guy, or was he kind of like mind your own business kind of...
Yeah. If you saw that he drank vodka and 7 or soda, whatever, 7. If you saw 3 straws in the glass here, that meant he had 2 or 3 drinks. Good to
that's
talk
how he
to.
counted his drinks.
You saw 8 or 9, you just walked by him.
And the first time when your dad got out of prison, you remember the first time you saw him?
Oh, yeah, he put a shotgun to my throat.
Why did he put a shotgun to your throat?
You didn't think I had that's a normal life, right? He calls up my mother. The heat went out, my mother's, so I had to fix it one day. He calls up, "You didn't fix the heat." I go, "I fixed the heat." So I open the door at Bauer Street in Medford. He got a shotgun like this to my throat. I go, "What's up, Dad? How you doing? You look good." He walks in there. I'm in the kitchen. He's got the gun. I go, "What's up?" I fixed that thing. Finally, I says, "That's it. Either shoot me, do what the frig you want." And I walked out. I walked around Medford, for like 2 hours. I didn't want to come back too fast.
Yeah.
So I come back and he was gone.
Oh, your dad used to run into Julia Child?
Oh, yeah, at Star Market across the street.
And he was into cooking, so it was like...
Yeah, they talk at 5:30 in the morning.
Wow.
Star Market on Beacon Street.
Because she used to live right behind Beacon Street in those...
Yeah.
Yeah,
she'd go there. They talk to each other.
That's cool.
My father loved dogs. They liked motorcycles at the end.
So I have a question. So I don't know if you looked at the site at all, Dirty Old Boston, the website, but we sell old T-shirts for all the old places that went out of business, like the Paddock.
Oh, wow.
Pal Joey's I put up there. Mm-hmm. Could we do a point of post shirt?
Sure.
I'll send you some if you want. This is, remember this place? The old Pilgrim Theater?
What was that?
In the combat zone?
Oh, yeah. I thought just some of them going weird. No, you can do the pointer.
Cool.
Here, Bobby talks about his friend and brother-in-law, BrianHalloran. Brian was a notorious bank robber and fearless enforcer of Winter Hill.
Well, I met Brian in 1970 in the Marine Corps. He was in jail in Terminal Island. And my father goes, "Would you go, while you're out in California, go see BrianHalloran?" I go, "I don't know who he is." Someday I'm only 17.
And Brian was a Somerville guy or a...
Dorchester.
Dorchester.
I think Dorchester. Or I forget. Even though he's married to my sister, I forget. So I asked for BrianHalloran. I don't know who he is. But this monster of a guy comes out. I go, "That's got to be him." He goes, "How you doing, kid?" and all this. And we became friendly when he come home. He ended up marrying my sister. But my father was mad about that. He was mad that Brian married my sister. So he always had that thing. And when they put the hit out on Brian, they came to my father. They said he's a rat. And that was Whitey again. And my father goes, "Just make sure my kids ain't in the car." Well, they had 2 hits when my brothers were in there or sister, and they didn't do it. Back then you respect those wishes.
The families, yeah.
But Brian, they used to rob the banks out in California with a couple other guys.
And that's how he got put in jail originally?
Yes. And then he robbed the Winter Hill Savings Bank with the Canadian crew. There used to be a crew to come down from Canada. And he held off the whole police department for the 60 at an M16. It had 16 rounds in it. And waiting for the guys to come out. They never come out. They all got caught.
Here I asked Bobby if someone were going to rob an armored car or a bank in Somerville, would they need the okay from Winter Hill first?
I don't think so. I think everyone was cowboys.
They were just cowboys.
There was cowboys, yeah. Like Brian was with another guy from Somerville or Charlestown out in California, robbing the armored cars. Then they come over here and they rob banks and armored cars. I think California's banks. I'm not sure. But back here, it was banks. And I told you about the Somerville cop, right? He was on break.
Well, and if somebody was, let's say Brian, he's in a crew and they're doing that, and he's working with Whitey or he's working with the Hill, do they say anything about it? Okay.
He never worked with Whitey with the
I just mean, do they say anything about it, or is it like that's Brian's thing, let him make his money? And
I don't know.
Okay.
That stuff I don't know. Because I wasn't involved in any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Were you trying to incriminate me?
No, I'm just trying to get a picture of like...
Hold me back.
Who these people were. They seemed real like outlaws. And how did they sort of get together in those
Everyone
groups?
was poor back then. No one had money. The only way you made money was to rob or steal.
Right.
You know, I thought I had to steal pants. We were poor. There's no difference between the projects and the regular houses in Somerville back then because everyone was poor.
Well, that's what I mean. Most of this is just ambition. Guys that want to get rich, that want to make money, and they didn't really have another way to...
But you got to have nuts and balls.
Right.
Okay? I mean, you got to be a little crazy. You got to have no remorse, you know? That was my problem. I felt bad when stuff happened, you know? If you didn't feel bad, then you could do whatever you wanted because it didn't matter. Boom.
Yeah.
Done.
Well, and if you were an ambitious young street kid and you weren't good at school, what were your choices? How were you going to get ahead? How were you going to make a lot of money?
Stealing, selling drugs, doing whatever. But Brian was mad at me one time, and I know his temper. I used to run the city every day. So I get a .22, I'd put it in my sleeve like this, and I'd run.
You'd run with a gun in your hand?
Yeah, and I'd have on the second floor of Hudson Street, I'd put a mirror. I'd take the gun out, and I'd look at the mirror, and I'd keep it cocked in case he was there, because I didn't know what he was going to do. When a kid drops me off one day, he goes, I know Brian's mad at you. You want me to come up with you? I go, no, because if I, it could be a shootout. What if I kill him?
Yeah.
Here Bobby talks about BrianHalloran's brazen robbery of 2 Hasidic Jewish diamond dealers at Boston's Logan Airport.
There was a story about some Jewish with BrianHalloran and the Jewish diamond dealers that used to come in, the Orthodox Jews.
Oh, yeah.
Used to come into Logan.
So they used to come into Logan, and Brian and this other kid from Somerville, they met them. They used to wear the diamond belts here. Yeah. No guns, just with the hat with the things.
The tassels.
So at the airport, at the train station, Brian knocked them out and took his diamonds.
After his success with the first robbery, Halloran planned a second heist that involved blocking off Boston's Sumner Tunnel and robbing the same Hasidic Jewish dealers. Luckily, Bobby was not involved.
So they would come in again, and they jump out, no guns, and no guns, get off guns, and just take it from the Jew in the cab. Well, I got drunk that night, but Joe called me up. Bobby, I'm in jail. I go, for what, Joe? What happened? He drove up way too far, and my other friend Joe and another guy, he had a pants on with a gun. They went to get the Jews, the diamonds from the Jews, and the feds were right there. They put a gun right through his head. The other kid ran.
Was it a setup? Did they know they were going to do it?
We don't know. Brian never showed up. I got a pinky ring that year, though, from one of the diamonds.
Brian really?
Brian had a kid. I lost it, though, in a fight. I lost more jewelry.
Yeah.
We were down at Sid's one night, me and Sal, and Lieutenant from the Somerville Police was there, and he's a fresh. I'm just sitting there. I'm only in my 20s, though. I'm like, and the cop said something to Sal. Sal walked over, slapped him in the face. So you say it again, I'll knock you the fuck out.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there like this 20-something-year-old kid.
So in the book you talked about, was it right before that you were in a fight down in the projects?
Yeah.
And your brother Leo was stabbed?
Yeah, my brother Eddie came up to me at the bar and he goes, this guy's bad-mouthed. I won't tell you his name. So we're down the project. I go down the project, see the kid. I go, what are you bad-mouth me for? I got gold chains on. Back then, we used to have the gold chains and the sweatsuits for $100 and, the gold freaking looked like Tony Soprano half the time. So we're down there. I end up fighting the kid because he said he was tougher than me. Why? It was dumb. He was picking my brother.
He was drunk or he was...
I had a few beers in me. Yeah.
No, he was drunk.
And he was drunk too. My brother was drunk. He was drunk. And I start fighting. 2 kids from Charlestown jump in. I hit them both. One wakes up and stabs my brother Leo. I mean, they were on angel dust. We hit him with a baseball bat. Didn't even move him. 2 weeks later, they found the kid dead in his apartment with his girlfriend in Charlestown.
Yeah.
It wasn't because of us. He did it to someone else too. Must have stabbed somebody.
Right.
And they just killed him because I used to think, just have a guy pull a knife on me, a gun. It's just normal stuff that people go through. But as I'm getting older, I'm hanging up North Reading. I say to the North Reading guys, I go, what do you think? They go, it's not normal.
It's not normal.
In this next story, Bobby talks about being shot at and stabbed after an argument breaks out at a house party in Charlestown.
So we're in Charlestown another time. We're at a party at a girl's house. It was a Somerville girl. And 5 kids from Charlestown try to come in. I go, what are you doing? You don't even know us. Well, we're coming in. Long story short, I go downstairs to try to squash it, and someone whips me with something. And I'm with Timmy Russell, who's a post office guy. I go down, and the kid whips me, and I go to... I black out.
When you say whips you, he cut you?
He cut me with something. And I go out, and the other big kid comes around with the gun. I close the door. The kid shoots through the door, misses my belly, and hits Timmy in the wrist. I grab him. All you can hear is blood pouring out of his hand. We go down the cellar. It's pitch black. So I take off my T-shirt. I'm wrapping Timmy's arm. And
are they trying to get in the house?
We had people coming down the stairs. Now it's pitch black. I got my eye. I'm closing my eyes because I'm feeling for weapons because I'm just going to start swinging.
Yeah.
They go, police, anyone down there? Yeah, we're down here. We go upstairs. The ambulance is there helping Timmy. Those 5 kids charged us. And I picked out, the kid was about 6'4". I beat them all over the car. The cop was right there.
The one who took the shots at you?
Yeah, and I knew, because you never talked back then. If you, 60s, 70s, 50s, if you ratted, you got killed. And that's just the way we grew up. I beat him up. I never stepped on no one's head. I tried to kill him. And the cop goes, that's enough. Well, 2 years later, he does it to somebody else. They find him in an alley with a bullet in his head. I probably should have went back then and did it because he shot at me. That's the way I grew up, though.
Yeah. Is that part of what happened? The craziest guys just, they would not burn out, but something caught up to them and...
Well, back in the 70s, a lot of kids were doing angel dust.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about this. So it sounds like when angel dust hits the streets...
You can't beat
all
them
the
up.
law and order and respect and unwritten rules are out the window, and they're just bananas.
You
These
just
kids
whacked
are like,
out.
Okay.
They were just whacked. And when you beat them up, they didn't feel it.
And when did angel dust show up?
Probably early 70s.
Okay.
You know, so that
And
was,
did it happen?
But heroin was
like
there.
all of a sudden
No, but heroin
there?
was big then too.
Yeah.
Heroin, angel dust, cocaine, that took everything over.
Yeah.
But the angel dust, I mean.
Would it have to be okayed if a guy was selling coke or if he was selling angel dust?
Not really. You know, some people say, I should get a piece of that, but then no one ever did,
Right.
You could have.
And was anybody saying, Howie and those guys, when they saw dust showing up and kids acting fucking crazy, like, we need to do something about this, or...
Well, not that I remember, no.
Okay.
No, but Howie went away in 78, so that could have been all those.
Oh, so those were the years that it started to happen.
Yeah, that's when it came.
Because Sal was killed by a kid that was on angel dust.
Here, Bobby tells the story of how on January 4th, 1980, Sal Sperlinga was shot and killed by Daniel Butchie Moran, after Sal had made it clear that Moran could no longer sell drugs in Somerville's Magoon Square neighborhood.
Butchie Moran. Butchie was selling the shit. He was selling either dust or something, and Sal said, stop selling it, or I'll give you a freaking beating. Well, Butchie, a little nutty, really nutty, just come in that friggin' store where they used to play cards. There was no back door. He shot at Sal. The gun didn't go off. He went out back, and the guy came in and shot him in the face.
So if you were 18 again, what would you do different?
Well, when I grew up, I thought I was, because my father worked at the garage.
Yeah.
I'd come down the stairs at Hudson Street and see all money in the tables. So I don't know what he was doing, but I imagine he was bookmaking.
Yeah.
And then I figured that's what I was supposed to do. I'd see all those guys hanging around at the corners going, I want to be one of those guys.
Yeah.
And I could fight, and
those were the cool guys.
Those are the cool guys. But they really weren't, because if I was to do it all over again, I wouldn't do that. I'd get a job. I'd build houses.
Did you get into booking at all? Or?
Yeah, I did some...
Could you make good money doing it?
Horses. I did some shy money,
Yeah.
Then I gave it all. When I became a cop, I gave it all up.
Right.
I had all kinds of money in the street. I just gave it up. I said, frig it. It's not worth it.
So this is a thing. So you transitioned from sort of that life into becoming a cop, to being a police officer.
Well, I worked on the projects for 2 years first.
Was it tough to get the money out of people?
Oh, yeah. Like if you said...
Was it always a headache? Was it always
a lot?
Chase?
Like I used to go do it for other people.
Yeah.
And then they wouldn't have it. I go, where do you see the next guy? Which was BrianHalloran. And then I go back to the office and they go, did you get the money? I go, no. Because, well, did you give him a slap or something? I go, no, I ain't hit nobody for money.
Yeah.
I'd fight you on a drop of a dime, but I won't, not for money. If I was to do it all again, over again, I wouldn't do that. I'd get a job, I'd build houses, I'd do something else. The average schmuck should just work.